BUNGPOD. Welcome back, Wine Wonder Boy.
And we got Jazzy J. Jazzy!
What is a bung?
The hole of the barrel is called a bung hole. Inside the bung hole is called a bung. Wine with mayhem. That's what it's about. All right. Welcome back to the BUNGPOD. It's your boy Ian King, a.k.a. Wine Wonder Boy, in the building. Jazzy J is not here right now, but I did a little traveling. I'm down here in Santa Barbara, the birthplace of my wine career, with my friend and I would say mentor as well, Chase Carhartt. Welcome, Chase.
Thanks
Thanks
happening?
for coming to the pod, man.
Absolutely.
Really
Happy to be
appreciate
here.
it. So all the fan base for the BUNGPOD knows I've referenced Carhartt exhaustively sometimes in the pod. So I felt it only right for them to meet you and for you to express kind of like what Carhartt's all about, what you guys do, from your grape varieties to your inspirations behind your wines as well. So with that, what's your wine background like? Like, how'd you start getting into this? And like, why are you here?
Good question, and also one that I get asked a lot, and also I think maybe some common misconception around how generations get into wine. I don't know about everybody else, but I speak for myself. I mean, my parents planted our vineyard in 1996, and for first vintage in 98. In 90, I mean, I was born in 89, so at the time, I was 9 years old.
Mm-hmm.
So essentially, like, as they started to get their start in wine and in grape growing, I was reasonably young and kind of came up as they were coming up, or just like, got older in the business.
When they plant their first?
96 was when we planted 7 acres of Merlot and 3 acres of Syrah.
Okay.
On the mesa up there. And so I mean, I remember when we planted, I remember being up there as a kid, like when there was nothing up there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess the point of that is I grew up in it, and I think it's kind of interesting a lot of people think like, oh, you were like born to do this, or you must have known from a young age that you wanted to do this. And that is like just simply not true at all.
Mm-hmm.
How can you, I've always thought like that's just not typical for a young kid to be like, I want to be a winemaker when I grow up. I mean, maybe that happens, and who knows, but generally speaking, it's like, I want to be an astronaut. I want to be a firefighter. Like, not, I want to make alcohol at 7 years old, not really knowing the full thing. So anyways, like, I mean, I was, quite frankly, I mean, I grew up in it and was involved in the winery and involved in winemaking and all that stuff. And seeing my dad farming and all that stuff was really cool. But I mean, in high school, I just did a talk at my high school the other day, actually, and talked to some students. Like, I am not a natural genius in terms of school stuff.
Okay, yeah.
Like, that's not my... Academically, like, I'm not a high SAT score type guy.
Yeah.
Like, that is not... I am not good at... Probably at tests generally. I'm not a high SAT score. I'm a hard worker. Mm-hmm. So I got very good marks in school all throughout my school career because all I did was just, like, work as hard as I could.
Right.
Why? I'm not really sure, for some reason, but I just worked as hard as I could, probably because my parents pushed me to do that. Mm-hmm. But anyways, the point of that is when I was getting close to graduating high school and, like, applying to colleges, like, there was a big division. Like, I was like, okay, well, kind of. I was like, I applied to Cal Poly San Luis Obispo for winemaking, for a degree in winemaking. Wine and viticulture being the title. And then I also applied to like a variety of schools, mostly in California, not all, but mostly in California. I would say primarily for international business. Mm-hmm. That was the kind of goal for me. And I felt at the time that was what I deserved.
Okay. Yeah.
Because I'd worked so hard in high school. And I quickly, well, I don't want to say quickly, but I realized over time that was just a like, also I think kind of ridiculous, and that was like more societal that was put on me, like that I should be going to like an Ivy League school or some shit.
Right.
Like that was not of interest. That really doesn't mean anything. I ended up going to Cal Poly. I ended up choosing Cal Poly because I was like, there is a really good base in this whole wine game. It is something I'm interested in.
Yeah.
I just didn't know if that was like my forever, but it is something I'm interested in. So let's give it a go. I ended up getting into Cal Poly and in San Luis Obispo, and my college career there was amazing. And essentially, what I discovered, was that I was enjoying it more and more. It was definitely like as I started getting into the details, it was like, oh shit, this is like there's a lot to this.
Yeah,
it's very hard to master. It's unmasterable. That's kind of cool. And then what really set my entire career off, I would say, quite frankly, was in my third year. And I tell everybody this because this is the most important thing I think in anybody's career personally, if you're of the right age, or really just any point in your career. In my third year at Cal Poly, they forced you to do a practical, and every other student was like, I'm going to work in SLO, I'm going to work in Paso, and I'm going to take classes at the same time, and I want to work at all the same fucking wineries and all this stuff. And I was like, it was like the most confusing concept to me. Like, you're working in your backyard and taking classes at the same time. That means you're going to graduate faster.
Yeah.
And I was like, why? Well, for me, wine and vit, like, dude, I was like, this rules. Like, I've grown up my life working. Like, I know when I was at school, like, dude, my parents weren't there to be like, what are you doing? What are you getting done this weekend? Like, what kind of work you putting in with the ranch?
Yeah.
The winery. Like, I was at school. So I was like, dude, I got plenty of other cool shit I can do. Like, I was on my own, man.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I'm not trying to speed this up. I know what my life's going to look like at some point. I know what it looks like if I go back home, which don't get me wrong, I don't dislike, but I'm going to milk an opportunity when I see one.
Right.
And so, I just was, anyways, my third year, all these students doing that. I was like, that's not for me. I have a friend, here in Santa Ynez, or in Storm Wines, and he's South African. And, he was like, we were chatting about it, and he was like, do you want to do a harvest in South Africa? And I was like,
hell yeah.
South Africa. Like, is that like lions and tigers and bears running around on the street? What's that like? I had no knowledge, I'm being a little bit facetious, but you get what I'm saying. Like, I had no concept of what life, winemaking, anything, culture, nothing was like in South Africa. Yeah. And it just sounded exotic and an adventure. And so I went winter quarter at Cal Poly. I took off and flew in air, turned 21, landed in Cape Town on my 21st birthday. Wow. And touched down and was like, I know this is going to sound weird, but I still get chills thinking about it. Like, I felt this like vibration when I hit the ground, when I touched the ground with my feet. And I was like, I felt like this sense of belonging and almost a sense of being at home. And for me, that has never occurred to me anywhere else but the Santa Ynez Valley, ever, anywhere in the world that I've ever been. And anyways, touchdown in South Africa. And literally, dude, like, I mean, not to make a long story too long, but like, these were the iPod days. I had an iPod. Yeah. Got my iPod stolen within 24 hours, just by being an idiot and leaving it places. Got it stolen by the people I was going to work with for the next 3 months. Like, someone took it.
Shit.
But they have nothing. And just through a series of events, and just like ended up landing in this cool place, like right on the beach. I was working for a winery up in the Himalanarda, and I was the only intern for this family company. And the bottom line is, dude, like that trip changed my life. It changed how I look at wine. It changed how I view the industry. And basically what I realized during that trip is like, dude, you can travel for wine and work in other parts of the world for wine in a million different capacities. And I was able to be like, dude, I'm going to do this for as long as I can.
Yeah.
And my dad's, I was always thinking about my dad, like he's not going to be able to say shit to me because I'm working.
Yeah.
I'm honing my skill set. So like I can go fuck off for 4 months and like not really, work, but I can also experience culture and food and life. And Africa was like, dude, mind blowing. Yeah. I mean, that place makes you feel alive like no other place, man. Yeah. Definitely. And so I did that. I came back to Cal Poly, a changed man, and I never looked back. And then I basically spent the next not every single year, but the next decade traveling to mostly the Southern Hemisphere, not entirely, but mostly the Southern Hemisphere. Almost every year. There was a couple years where I worked 3 harvests in a year.
How's that work?
It works by timing. Yeah. So like I did 2015 March. I flew to Tasmania. So off the coast of Australia, did a harvest in Tasmania. Came back in summer, worked fall with my family, made wine here, fall of 15. And then early harvest, January, flew over mid-January 2016 to South Africa. Cool climate, so mainly Pinot and Chardonnay with storm wines, and finished in like late Feb. So in a 12-month year, I did three vintages.
That's crazy.
And that was kind of like this is not uncommon, right, in business. If you can double or triple your opportunity, right, where most people take one opportunity a year, it's harvest, it's one time a year. I was doubling or tripling down every year. So my experience double or tripled over a 10-year period. Like, duh. Yeah. Like, and I got to travel the world and see things. And I did that until 2020, and then COVID hit and life got real and really real. But all the while I was building business here with my parents. And so all of this, just go back, it was just a culmination of a lot of things. And I was learning about sales. I was learning about production. I was learning about viticulture. I was learning about dealing with different cultures, communication. Inherent in that was just management. I mean, I was coming into a lot of these sellers, not entirely, but like with experience that a lot of the other seller interns didn't have. Right. Because they didn't have their own family business, or they weren't managing employees at the time, or they didn't have as big a robust of direct consumer business as we did. So, I was I'd like to think that I made my value very apparent very early on, because I'm just going to get in. I was proud to be the epitome of like the American muscle. Yeah. You go in another country, like everybody's kind of, it's fun, man. You live in a house with a bunch of people from a bunch of different cultures, and you get in and like, how are you going to define yourself? Yeah. Like I define myself by being straight up American muscle. Like I'm going to get in here and outwork everybody. Yeah. And I liked that. Like, it was fun in a cool way, like in a very good way. But you got to, it's a fun deal to get out there and like get thrown in the mix with a bunch of people and be like, how are you going to come out? It's like, it's a jungle. Yeah. And like, I love that shit. I really do. And I miss it. I miss being able to do that, but
All right, let's take a quick break for a second, because I got something I want to tell you guys about. If you want an extra episode per week, if you want exclusive discounts on some dope ass merch that we got, also, if you want to add your 2 cents, your opinions, your hot takes, or your topic ideas, we want to hear about it. Go to patreon.com/officialbungpod and talk to us. Now let's get back to the show. All right, guys, we got some news. We have an official BUNGPOD store. We got some merch going. BUNGPOD.store. Update your life. Update your wardrobe. You need some new clothes. You need to look fresh. Update your life. Update your style. We got hoodies. We got handbags. We got stickers. We got beanies. We got more coming on the way. So if you like the show and you want to cop yourself some merch, go to bungpod.store. Now let's get back to the show. I mean, I almost went to Tasmania one year. I called you, and It was in 21, I believe. I wasn't able to go because it was just after COVID and Australia wasn't letting anyone in.
Yeah,
so,
that was a tough time.
Yeah,
sure.
so I wasn't able to go. But, man, that travel experience, that's one thing cool about the wine industry you can do, though, is like do a harvest in, 2 places of the world in 1 year.
Dude, 100%.
And get so much experience.
Yeah, and also just like, I think, I think people ask me, just to bank off of that, right? Like, traveling for wine and working a vintage somewhere else, or just it doesn't matter what part of the industry you're in my opinion. Production, sure.
Yeah.
But even if you were like, you know what, I'm going to go over to this part of the world and work in a wine shop, or I'm going to go to this part of the world and be like wine distribution. I don't know, whatever you can find.
Yeah.
To me, it's psychological too, right? Like it's a study of human beings. It's the study of decision making. Like I know how to, like by 2017, 2018, I've been doing this a long time. Like I know how wine's made.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that you don't learn tricks and like really cool stuff, but I wasn't studying that at that point. I wasn't studying how wine is made. No offense, like all the places I've been, like there's a little bit of different treatment of stuff for sure, but that's different treatment of grapes in that particular part of the world. So it's very specific to that area too.
To that climate.
It doesn't mean you can just take that trick and bring it back to your place. People make this mistake all the time. Bring it back home and just use it.
Yeah.
You got to refine that based off your own situation,
right.
Your own set of terroir if you want to.
Yeah.
So what I was doing, which I think is the smart thing, in my opinion, because this has helped me more than anything, is studying the minds and studying a winemaker's decision-making processes, studying how they react to scenarios, not just because of who they are as a person, but how they assess a problem, particularly problems. So if we get really bad rain in the middle of harvest and we've got tight clustered white grapes hanging, or like you got Chardonnay out there and mildew starts to happen,
right.
Or just a variety of issues like that, right? Like I've seen bad shit happen, and South Africa is a perfect example of where there's 4 seasons in one day. Like all sorts of shit can happen. So seeing how people do that, seeing how work culture is. I've never been to another country, end of story, period, that works like we work in the US, that harvests like we harvest, that has the same mentality for work.
Right.
It's very different. And then culturally too, what does it feel like to work with a bunch of French people or Italian people or Spanish people or Argentinians or any of that stuff? Like, what does that look like? And how do they relate to what we're doing, to the process of what we're doing? So to me, again, it's not necessarily just the actual thing. It's how we're going about that thing that I was studying. And I think sort of consciously and subconsciously that has affected who I am.
Is it true? I heard this, I'm not sure, but in South Africa, is it true that their number one pest for vineyards are baboons?
Yeah, so like a living thing. Yeah, I mean, I would say that is a real threat. That is a legitimate threat.
Do they eat the grapes or?
Dude, more than that. Eating the grapes is like really actually, I mean, almost the least of it. Like I have seen a tribe of baboons like come through a vineyard. I mean, I don't know if they call them a tribe or a troop. I can't really remember, but whatever. There can be 15, there can be like 100. And they are agile and they are strong and they are just lawless.
How do you get rid of them?
I mean, no one shoots them there. Most of the people that I was encountered don't shoot them, but they will shoot like air cannons or guns
and scare them away.
To scare them.
Yeah.
Or dogs, something. It's the same thing over there. Like most people aren't like really, for like going and actually killing these animals. Like that's not the idea.
Yeah.
But but they're aggressive. They will go through a vineyard and not just eat the grapes. They will snap cordons, snap branches.
Shit.
I mean, we're talking about complete decimating an entire block or an entire vineyard. Yeah, it's really bad. Like, they don't have a problem with that. They'll break into people's homes, go into the cupboards, take out cans, smash the cans on the ground, and just completely like destroy places, because that's how they are. Yeah, no, that's how they move.
That's insane.
Yeah, so that kind of pest, I mean, it makes us and like our deer problem. I mean, the closest thing I would say here is hogs, like wild boar,
right,
wild pigs.
In Central Coast. Yeah,
we have really bad issues in certain parts of the Central Coast with wild pigs.
Right,
they will go through and really screw up vineyards. But I would say that baboons are probably the worst pest I have ever seen in the world anywhere easily.
Yeah.
And everybody's different, you know. I didn't see any pests in Argentina. I didn't see any pests in France. They basically have nothing. They have like a little bit of deer.
Yeah.
They barely even had bird issues. I mean, we have bird issues here. Yeah. That's why we net.
Yeah.
But a lot of places don't have, as bad of bird issues. But yeah, it was, baboons gnarly, dude. Gnarly.
So let's talk about the elephant in the room real quick for the people listening. Mm-hmm. Your last name's Carhartt. Mm-hmm. Your winery is called Carhartt Family Wines. What's the connection between the clothing company and your family and this winery?
It's a great question. I mean, I would be asking that question too. Yeah. So my great-great-grandfather, Hamilton Carhartt, the first, was basically started Carhartt Clothing in 1889. It was really actually a couple years before that, but the formal date is 1889 in Michigan, Detroit. And basically he had, to try and keep it short, he had a couple of kids, Hamilton Jr. and Wiley. And, Hamilton Jr. ended up coming out to the West Coast and Wiley stayed back. And Hamilton Jr. is my great-grandfather. So not my great-great, but my grandfather. And he came out to West Coast, Pasadena area. And then my grandfather was born in Pasadena. And my dad was actually born in Pasadena too, but in a very, very early age, came up here to Rancho Santa Ynez. And then I was born here. So that side of the family, basically, that's how we ended up on the West Coast. And my other side of my family, is the Wiley side, if you want to call it that, but we all trace back to Hamilton. Mm-hmm. They still are in Detroit, and they still own Carhartt Clothing, and it's privately held, and they're amazing, and we're super good friends. Mm-hmm. But in terms of like relationship to Carhartt Clothing, Carhartt Family Wines is just familial. Mm-hmm. We carry the name.
Right.
But it's a family.
So you're not business related or financially involved.
Correct. Yeah. So we don't, we're completely separate businesses in every single way you could imagine.
Yeah.
We have no involvement in Carhartt Clothing other than me basically wearing the clothes every single day and working in them. And, the family back east, drinking our wines. They make the clothes. I wear them. We make the wine. They drink it. It's symbiotic.
Yeah, it's a good relationship.
Yeah, it's a great relationship. And they're family, and they're amazing. And I have a very, very small family, and we're very close with them. And my cousins out there are my age, and we're all kind of in the same place in life. And it's awesome.
Yeah, that's rad.
Yeah.
So with Carhartt Family Wines, you guys do a lot of different great varieties. You yourself, you make like wines for 3 labels, technically 3.
I would say technically 2 labels.
Technically 2.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Carhartt Family Wines it's grown over the years, right? It used to just be Carhartt Vineyard. It was like that for a long time. We had one vineyard. That's what my parents planted.
Yeah, that's when I started here.
Yep. And as it grew, we started planting a little bit more estate fruit. And basically it's kind of, so I was traveling at that same time, right? So this is all kind of coming together. But as Carhartt Vineyard was growing, and as our plantings were growing, and as we were making a little bit more wine, I was also traveling abroad. And so in 2016, I started a second label called Carhartt Venture. And venture label this is the way that I define them, but Carhartt is our kind of estate brand and venture is our progressive, more experimental brand. And I started Carhartt Venture because I was traveling to these other countries and had all these crazy ideas and experiments I wanted to do. And I didn't want to do them with Carhartt Vineyard at the time because I didn't want to change the style that my mom had developed. So my mom has been the winemaker for, and now we co-wine make, but she was the winemaker in the beginning. She started it with my dad, who was the head viticulturalist. And I didn't want to mess with that. Like, I really liked it. We'd built a wine club off of that. I love the style. I love the idea that it was consistency in our own style. And I didn't want to mess with that. It's what people have been trusting. So I wanted like a clean slate, and that's why Venture was started. And then in I guess 21, we finally launched, I think it was 21, we finally launched Carhartt Family Wines, which is a rebrand of basically our entire operation. And I'd been waiting to do that for a long time. I'd been working on it for years and years. So finally launched the rebrand, Carhartt Family Wines, more comprehensive. We farm 3 vineyards now. We farm from original 10 acres. We farm 23 acres. We grow over 11 different varieties. Now Carhartt Family Wines label, our family label, is 100% estate as of the 21 vintage. Venture is mostly offsite. And again, consistent, tried and true, 100% estate. Carhartt Family Wines, very common to see in sort of estate-driven labels globally. And then you have Venture, which is, again, I say completely experimental and progressive, from, crazy varietals, white and red co-fermentations, multi-fruit co-fermentations, multi-fruit wines, crazy sparkling, whatever, dude, anything that I feel. Would you put it
under the umbrella of natural wines, or?
I think I'm in the camp with most people of I sort of use that term sparingly now. Okay. I try to use that term sparingly because I think the idea of natural wine in some circles is kind of getting a little bit of a weird rap. For good reason, but kind of a weird rap. I'm kind of in the middle of that whole thing. I drink a lot of quote unquote natural wines. Right. And a lot of them are terrible. Honestly, they're really bad.
I've had some really terrible ones. I've had some amazing ones.
Yeah, it's true, right? Anyways, we can get on that topic anytime, but I don't call them natural wines. I would say, yes, there are a few wines that I make that are sort of 0 wines or 0 wines. In other words, I don't know additives. I put on the label, nothing added, nothing taken away when I
like that. It's
when really I make wine that is just without any additions of any kind and no sulfur. I just put nothing added, nothing taken away. And that's kind of the idea, right? Cool. And I get that to some people means natural wine, but I think unfortunately natural wine is now, the name is carrying this connotation of being super funky and kind of weird. And I'm not saying that some of my wines aren't funky or aren't weird, but they sure as shit are not full of classical wine faults. And that's the issue that I got. Right. A little VA from time to time is okay. Certain times oxidation is actually certain wine styles, it can be okay. Brett can be okay in certain parts of the world. It has been in traditional wine circles. Right. I just am not into the no offense, the people that get into this game that have never made wine before and think they're expert marketers and get in and make this crazy wine and just are playing into the fad of natural wine and it's fucked up and they think that they can get away, and they are getting away with it a little bit. But also I kind of support some of that because I'm almost if it brings another person into wine, then I almost am cool with it too. So I guess I hesitate to be too hardlined on any of that stuff because I'm so passionate about bringing more people into wine. And particularly the younger generation, that I almost would say I don't care what the cost is, even if they come in because they're just amped on this kind of shitty natural wine. whatever, dude. Like, you know, like you'll figure it out over time probably, or like you'll develop your own thoughts. Wine is subjective. If you love that, great. I know I can explain very clearly why certain wines are good and why other wines are not,
right, according
to me.
Okay.
But, you know, so I don't call venture wines necessarily natural wines. Some of them though, again, you know, if that's what like makes people want to buy the wine because it's like a natural wine, then I guess it's a fucking natural wine, dude. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, sure, buy it. I guess it's a natural wine if that means to you. But I hesitate a little bit. But yeah, anyways, that's kind of where we're at.
Are you still doing, because you were doing like an import label at one point?
Okay, yeah. So, I did that for a couple vintages. I just did it for a couple vintages. I haven't been back to South Africa after 2020. That's why. Cool. But the reason that got started was and that's something I probably would love to continue at some point in my life. But I've worked 5 vintages in South Africa, and very shortly after doing a few vintages abroad, I was like, damn, I'm making like no money. And in South Africa, I was probably close to losing money because the daily rate of pay is so low that it's almost like you're losing money. I have enough to live, but I wasn't accumulating enough money to like pay for my plane flight home type thing. So like it was kind of like I was losing. And that's okay. Like at a certain point in life, that's fine. And you should do that. Like you should lose for a while. And then it gets to a point where it's like, I have a whole business back home. Like I don't think I can afford to lose like this. Yeah. So financially. So I was like, I asked the winemaker for Storm Wines, South Africa, Hannes, who is a good friend of mine, him and his wife, Natalia. And they, you know, I was like, hey, if I come over there and work vintage with you and bring someone with me too, right from here, like introduce, you know, bring help. So essentially supply you with harvest work. Can I make some wine? And we agreed on what we wanted to do. And that was the idea, kind of a little bit like that. And we ended up in 2018 making multi-appellation Pinot Noir from Himalayan, which is cool climate. It's like honestly, I think one of the best regions in South Africa and the Western Cape, but it's also cool climate. It's maritime influenced. So multi-appellation Pinot Noir and single vineyard Syrah from the lowest appellation, the closest to the coastline. It's about 1.5 miles from the ocean.
Okay.
Which is fucking gnarly. Like I've never seen a lot of grapes being grown that close to the ocean. I mean, it's very rare. And we did that in 2018 and then imported it back into the US in like end of 19 and sold that. And then I did that again in 2020 because I just didn't do it in 19 because it was like the first time we'd done the project. And then in 2020 I did it again. And then we sold through that, and I didn't go back after 2020 was my last vintage abroad because of COVID. And life also got kind of serious, but COVID definitely fucked it up. Yeah.
I mean, you're a busy dude.
Yeah. And like, it just kind of like, it didn't like set, you know, it just kind of like knocked us all off to the tracks a little bit with stuff. But yeah, it was called, the label is Cargo. It was a little bit of a collab label that I did with the importing company in SoCal called Argo. Really great. That's a little plug for them. I mean, they're amazing, little great importing and distribution company out of Costa Mesa. We brought those wines in and they were great to work with. And it was ultimately supposed to be a way, it was a little bit of a justification for me going over there and working, but also mainly it was like, how can I show people South African wines? How can I expose South Africa to at least my network of people from the lens of me as a winemaker who you trust already? Yeah. So like that is kind of actually my dream. And eventually, like I would love to travel around the world and I would love to continue the operation here. And I would love to travel to other regions and help create wines in more undiscovered regions with people, and then be able to bring those wines back and import them back and sell them under the context of, hey, you trust me, you understand that I'm not going to be producing bad wines, and I have reasons for how I want. I come from a production. I'm not a somm.
Right.
No offense, but like I come from a production background, like, and I'm not going to spin like a marketing story. Like I have real reasons for the place, time I have real reasons for where I go and why I go.
Right.
And like, I don't know. I think that was the unique angle for me is like trust someone in production. Yeah. For knowing what chemistry is and how wines are made, not just what the final product is, but how we got there. Right. And so, it was really great. And people got to, experience South Africa wine through, I think my lens, so to speak, and the goal was accomplished. It was, albeit on small scale, but the goal was accomplished. We did like 150 cases of Pinot and 100 cases of Syrah. It wasn't big. It's not nothing, but it wasn't big. But I'd love to do it again. But at the moment, that project is on pause.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're getting close to the end for the episode. But do you want to plug anything? Like, where can people find you? Where can they find your wines?
Oh man. Well, I do. We didn't. I want to just like give context too for like what we do. So just because I think context, that's how I really usually start every conversation with anybody that I meet. We do now about between 7,000 and 7,500 cases annually. It's like 90,000 bottles, which, to a lot of people is like, how big is that? They have no idea.
Right.
That's a really small winery on a global context. I think a lot of people would feel that way. I mean, we have wineries in Santa Ynez that are producing 3,000 cases. So 7,500 is not really tiny, but it's, globally, it is like barely a blip on the radar.
Yeah.
And then, but the part that's like kind of unique in that is that we now, pretty much for the last handful of years more, we've produced over 30 different wines between the Venture and Carhartt Family Wines label.
Okay.
So 30, 35 different wines, something like that. So
30 wines, not 30 grape varieties?
No, I probably do grape varieties 17 to 20 annually. And Venture label, I usually work with different grape varieties every year. But yeah, so that's a lot of breakdown. We do 25 cases of one, and Grenache is like our largest production at like 700 cases. Okay, which is still really small.
Yeah.
And then I guess what further separates us is we're still, and we've been this way for close to a decade, I'd say. A little less than a decade, but we're 100% direct consumer. So we don't sell our wines anywhere. No restaurants, no wine bars, no markets. We're 100% direct to the consumer through our tasting room, which is in Los Olivos, online. Do a fair amount of e-commerce. And then our wine club, which is like, that's, a lot of companies have a wine club, but we're over 70% distributed directly to a group of people, which is awesome. They're an amazing group, and they've been very supportive. And so that's kind of my ultimate dream, is just to continue with wine club. Yeah, like I have no distribution is not like my goal. Contrary to most parts of the world, most winemakers, distribution is a big part of their business and also something that they love. I don't love distribution. I would consider it in certain instances, but I don't love it. I love direct to consumer because I love relationships. And I like trust and loyalty and understanding. And in today's world, knowing exactly where wine comes from and that sort of stuff is really important. And yeah, so that's you can buy our wines by joining the club, which is what I think is the best, because we throw epic parties and a lot of cool events, and the tasting room's open 364 days a year in Los Olivos. Or you can just buy them online. You can hit us up on any of our social channels or email us or any of that. And we're out there to educate and help, like what you're trying to do with this podcast and what you are doing, I should say, and what we're, doing with our social and stuff is to try and educate and give people sort of the truth.
Yeah, totally.
And it's coming, from right here, man. I mean, it's still family farmed. Like, that shit's hard to have your own estate fruit and be making wine and be running a direct consumer operation. It takes every ounce of my being every single day, basically. And, but that's what we sort of, it's also the dream in many senses. Yeah. So yeah, that's what we do. You know, like I said, venture is now very experimental. I mean, I was making some wines like every year kind of thing. And now I think I have like 2 wines that I make consistently under venture label, and everything else are one-offs. Yeah. So like I just make one year and that's it. Like I don't make it again kind of thing. Like all of them are like unique pieces of art for that single vintage. And I don't want anything to be consistent, and I don't want people to, feel comfortable with it. Yeah. Right. Like I'm not interested in that. I'm interested in people feeling like they are excited for the unknown. Right. That's it. And
you're challenging people too at the same time.
I want you to drink those wines and be like, damn, this is good, and I've never had this variety before. Or damn, this is good, and I've never heard of this grape or this style or this method, or I can't believe this is a unsulfured wine, or any of that stuff. Like, I want to expose people to something. And, you know, sometimes those wines are a little bit more abrasive, not because they're not made well, but like sometimes people aren't going to dig all the styles. Yeah. And I'm totally cool with that. Because if I'm not doing that, I'm probably still not going hard enough.
Yeah. And if they don't want to be challenged, they want to be comfortable, and they want to just drink delicious conventional wines, you also have your estate label.
Yeah, exactly. You know? And those are made in our own way, of course, right? Like, we still have Grenache that's made very delicately, and it's been like that for a long time. Or, you know, we still have our way that we produce our estate wines, and I think the best way. But I mean, we're also coming out with new estate wines that people have never seen before still. Yeah. Like, we just released Graciano. I mean, we'd been growing that since 2017. It's our first time. We just released the 19, like, 2 weeks ago. You know, like
the 19.
Yeah, 19.
Hey, dude. I helped make that one.
Yeah, there you go. Hell yeah.
I did some work on it.
Well, that's cool. Yeah, it's up at the tasting room, so you'll go and taste that. There's actually a lot of 19s that are being released right now. Yeah. Wayward Sun up there, Santa Ynez Pinot. Yeah, that one was pretty consistent for a while. Yeah, there's a fair amount. I mean, we got 19 Merlot, 19. There's a lot of 19s that are like just now hitting our kind of, and that's intentional. Yeah. If another winery was saying that, I'm always skeptical. Like, fucking 19s, what are you guys doing? Not selling wine, but we're actually intentional with how we hold back a lot of wines now. Yeah. So we like to keep them in bottle for a year and a half, sometimes 2 years, sometimes more. Like, it's been a long road, but we finally gotten there because it's the best way to show those wines. Yeah. It's amazing. Finally, you know, so that's really cool too. Yeah.
One quick thing. I mean, when I first started in the wine industry, I started with you, in the tasting room, and, I didn't know jack shit about wine at all, but I was working in the tasting room. I served before, and the one wine that opened my mind and showed me that there's a lot of depth and complexity in the world of wine was the Grenache. That was kind of like my aha bottle of wine, where I was like, oh my God, like all I knew was like Pinot Noir, Merlot. That's all I fucking knew. Yeah, sure. And when I was working in the tasting room, I would work on the weekdays when I first started, and it'd be slow. And so I'd spend most of my time reading Wine Folly and trying to learn about the wines that I didn't know about, and I was trying to sell them. Yeah. And that just broadened my horizons completely. And then I was like, oh my God, this is actually really interesting. Yeah. Like, there's a lot of depth in all these wines. There's complexity. I need to find out more about wine. And that's when I asked you if I could do a harvest in 2019. And so, yeah, man.
Yeah, Grenache is our, you know, kind of house wine now, I like to think. So I'm glad that's amazing. The wine that I didn't know that, but that's cool.
And it's still bomb.
Yeah, man. You're still 21 Grenache just came out. I mean, it's amazing. It's fucking killer. Yeah. Yeah.
All right, man. Well, hey guys, check the show notes, because we will have all of Carhartt Family Wines, their website, their socials,
in the show notes. So go there, buy some wine, join the wine club. Thanks for coming, Chase.
Absolutely.
Cheers, buddy.
Thank you, dude.
Give you a little fist bump.
Good to see you, man.
Cheers.